If you're trying to make games with a full-time job, family, and barely any free time, and you're wondering how this ever turns into something real, this video's for you. This month I shipped a paid game, opened the playtest, and ran the real numbers on game development, without having the dev time I wanted. Most of that work didn't happen at my desk. A lot of it happened in stolen moments, including designing UI on my iPad in bed at night. January forced me to rethink what progress even means. When time is limited, you can't just work on whatever feels interesting, you have to work on what actually moves things forward. And that led me to a realization I kept running into over and over this month. Volume matters more than perfection. One of the biggest things I did this month was open up the Castlevania playtest to newsletter subscribers. And honestly, that decision mattered more than any individual feature. Because when you don't have a lot of time, you can't afford to keep projects private forever. You need a place where people actually see what you're working on. Between the newsletter and a few other places I shared it, the playtest ended up in the hands of over 70 people. Out of those 70, 3 people actually gave feedback. At first that number messes with your head. You start thinking something went wrong. But this is the reality. Most people don't leave feedback. Not because they didn't enjoy it, but because they're busy, unsure what to say, or maybe just passing through. And what surprised me wasn't just that I got feedback, it was what that feedback was. One of the biggest things I hadn't even considered was this. Some players had never played the original game. Concepts that feel obvious to me, like hearts being ammo for subweapons, just weren't obvious at all to other players. That wasn't a balance problem, that's a communication problem. Another player told me they couldn't figure out how to use the stairs. Not because the mechanic was broken, but because there was nothing on the screen telling them that they could, or how. That instantly clicked for me. I didn't need to redesign stairs, I need control prompts. And then there was one piece of feedback I'm still sitting with. Someone felt like the monster spawned too often. I'm not sure yet if that's a real issue or just one person's experience, especially since nobody else mentioned it. But even that feedback matters. Because feedback doesn't always give you the answers. Sometimes it gives you a question you don't know you needed to ask. If you're short on time, this is why outside eyes matter. They reveal blind spots you literally cannot see on your own. That same lesson showed up again with something I actually put up for sale. This month, I released Word Search Anthology on itch. And I want to be very clear about the goal here. I wasn't trying to sell a copy to a friend, not someone from Facebook, not another game dev being supportive. I wanted one thing. A complete stranger to find it, play the demo, and decide it was worth paying for. That happened. And once it did, something clicked. Because selling to strangers is a completely different skill than making something people like. It's the store page, the screenshots, the description. It's whether someone who doesn't know you and doesn't care about your journey understands the value in about 5 seconds. I had the other sales, I knew the source. Those still matter. But that one anonymous purchase? That's proof the system works without you in the room. And that realization fed directly into the last thing I spent time on this month. I started running real financial numbers. Not dream scenarios, not someday math. Actual time, effort, reach, and return. And here's the thing I had to fully accept. Everything you hear on podcasts about marketing is absolutely true. If you don't spend time on marketing, you won't get sales. If you don't put energy into visibility, you won't get feedback. And if you don't reach enough people, nothing else matters. That's not pessimism, that's math. The clearest example of this for me came from my Zelda video. That video hit around 35,000 views. Out of all those views, roughly 400 people actually played the game. At first glance, that ratio seems brutal. But once you accept it, something really important happens. You stop treating attention like validation and start treating it like a funnel. 35,000 views isn't failure. 400 plays isn't disappointing. That's just what scale looks like. And when you understand that, marketing stops feeling personal and starts feeling like something you can plan for. The biggest change for me this month wasn't productivity. It was acceptance. I stopped treating limited time like a failure and started treating it like a design constraint. Volume over perfection, consistency over intensity, letting imperfect things exist. If you're building games alongside real life and wondering why progress feels slower than it should, you're not behind. You're just building something that requires more reps than anyone likes to admit. If you want access to future playtests and early builds, that all goes through the newsletter. That's where things show up before they're public and where feedback actually shapes what gets built next. The link's below, and I'll see you next month.